Happy New Year, everybody. Happy new decade. This is Connor Listoka, and this is 372 pages. We'll get back. We'll never... What? Never get back? Let me try that again. We're
not retaking. Nope. You got to just do it. You got to
Come on. Oh, my God. The decade's only going to go downhill from here.
What book are we on?
What is the podcast called? I don't know.
What our show is?
Yeah. 372 pages. We'll never get back. This is Connor Listoka. Going to be mercilessly
Michael J. Nelson
mocked for this, I assume. Yeah, and here with Mike, and I guess Shadow Moon has fried our brains. But no. This is the podcast where we read books we're not expecting to like, and we've been doing it for 10 books now, and we are now probably 2/3 of the way through Shadow Moon by Chris Claremont and George Lucas. Mike, how much of this book did you read over our holiday hiatus?
I did a 2-day cram on it. I admit, but I make it nice for myself. I put on classical music, usually Baroque, and I just sit in the chair and I go through it. So it's about as peaceful as you can have it reading Shadow Moon by George Lucas.
It's like one of those sort of like arty, like faux Scorsese movies where they'll show, some sort of horrible explosion or violent act, but it will be soundtracked by a symphony or something like that.
Right. You go into my head and the camera's sort of swooping around me as I read, but then it's cutting to these
the horrors and
cities turning to ice and people dying and rat stampedes and stuff. But We're getting ahead of ourselves.
I went down to I didn't read anything until I got back to Vermont, but I was down in Virginia, D.C. area, and one of the things that we did during our time there was go visit this art gallery that my mom has been volunteering as a docent at for maybe like 2 years now. And this is the first time that we got a chance to go see it. It's called the Krieger. It's in Washington, D.C., but the outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, I wasn't even aware. My mom's been going there for 2 years, but they had all sorts of heavy hitters in this tiny little gallery. So there was like Monets, Mirots, Picassos, Van Goghs. Have you ever seen a Van Gogh up close?
I have, yeah.
It's really impressive. It's like almost like a relief topographical map in terms of the three-dimensionality of the paint that he sort of, you don't get that when you just look at it on a computer.
Yeah, I was just, for some reason, referencing, maybe it was a joke or something, but it was the giant one that's at the Chicago Museum of, Sunday on the Park of the Isle.
Yeah, the Pointillism.
Yes, the Ferris Bueller painting. And that's amazing, too, to be able to, because it's so huge,
mm-hmm.
It's you look at it, you don't realize the scale. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it was, I'm not one to, be awed by this, but it was sort of impressive to be in this tiny room where you could just, in theory, reach out and touch these old, priceless works. And I was talking to my uncle or my godfather at my brother's wedding, and he had recently met the Dalai Lama, and he said, I honestly felt like it was it was spiritual just to be in the room with him, and he gave off that vibe, and that was sort of what these beautiful paintings sort of did. I felt like.
Sure, yeah.
So then I went back to Vermont and read Shadow Moon by George Lucas and Chris Claremont. Really undid all that spirituality.
Then you're back to reading about this pack.
Oh, it could not be any more divergent ways to end and start this new decade of ours.
I'm glad you put a bookend on it. This is a good start. By the way, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. Hopefully It's not too annoying. Hopefully it just gives me a rich basso profundo rather than sounding like I'm going to die. Because I'm not. I feel fine. So let's march on. We have every department, right?
Yeah, we do. We've got new fanfic for this new year. We've got all sorts of emails, and one I'm particularly excited about. And we've got, of course, we have dumb sentences of the week as we, I guess we're getting towards the home stretch of this one.
There's so much, because it's my paperback is one of the, what do you call the, I feel like it's an airplane paperback.
Yeah, mass market, I think.
Mass market, with the cheap paper. Yeah, and so it's thicker, and so it's more daunting because the pages are smaller. And just to see so much thickness still awaiting us is a bit daunting. But yeah, we'll soldier on.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of people that are soldiering on with us. I think this has caused more people to either set the book down or throw it across the room, never to pick it up again. But the ones who remain with us, we thank you. And maybe this has a. I was going to say maybe this has some sort of turnaround that's going to make it all worthwhile, but I couldn't really finish the sentence.
Right. So yeah, the people who remain with us, we happy few.
Yeah.
Someday we will strip our sleeves and show our scars and say we were there on Shadow Moon, and I appreciate you guys doing that with us. So let's dive in.
One more final thing to invoke a better work of art when discussing this garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah, we started off with chapter 9, which to me, I was irritated by the very first sentence, but then I thought it provided a good imitation challenge.
Oh wow, I've got a couple coming up too, but I missed the first one out of the gate. What do you got? I think the first sentence. Thorn is talking to the deceiver. He says, "I won't let you harm her," Thorn said, projecting an implacable determination he didn't truly feel. So, I want to hear, I won't let you harm her as you project an implacable determination you bet you don't truly feel. Okay, here we go. I got to imagine I'm a little bit smaller.
Yes.
Here we go. I won't let you harm her?
Yeah, I picked up on that your heart wasn't truly in that implacability. Implacable has a good run in this. There's a second one coming up later, which made me look it up. Compared to asperity, it is no asperity. It does not have as many asperities, but it has been showing up throughout the book, and we might not have just noticed.
What's asperity again?
That's what people are saying things with. People are saying things with asperity.
But what is the definition? I lost track of it already, because obviously around the Christmas tree opening gifts, we weren't talking with asperity to one another, not that I know of, so right. I kind of lost it.
Harshness of tone or manner.
Oh, okay.
So it's usually if you're either saying the title Shadow Moon or discussing the contents of Shadow Moon, it's likely that you're going to be doing those with asperity.
Yes, if you're describing your podcast to someone else, it's going to come through like, "Hey, Connor, come on, man, that's pretty. That's a lot of asperity,
right?
You don't have to be doing this,
And then it cuts to the detective being like, "We don't know what happened here. He told him not to speak with asperity, and now he's dead."
The first thing I noted was the deceiver dishing out lightning bolts. Mm-hmm. Sequence of bolts, this time one for Thorn, the other Allura, and it just put me in mind of lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, to bring back a golden classic. From
an underappreciated one.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's the deceiver's main form of aggression, I guess, as he sort of shoots lightning bolts like the Emperor in Star Wars. It corrodes stone to powder, but Thorn is diving out of the way. He's shielding Princess Allura. And I was confused. They said this before. They're like, the people who have gathered here to watch this coronation are only seeing what they want to see because of, the deceiver's deception. And I was uncertain where that stopped in this section, because he's blasting people with lightning bolts. Obviously coming up as a dragon who reveals itself. But then the people start fleeing the city. So I didn't know where the deceiver's spell wore off.
I don't know. That's confused me as well, because they cheer when he's lightning bolting them.
Yeah.
So they're seeing something. They're seeing like a pretty good parade float going by, or something. I don't know what are they seeing.
Yeah, it says they cheer or something, and he says, "Don't mind them, Peck," the deceiver said with a dismissive wave that left a trail of cast-off flicker flames behind it. They see only what they believe is Allura ascendant. So
okay.
Either they think that this is what a Allura ascending ritual is supposed to look like, where a confrontation ensues and a fake Willow blasts the real Willow.
Boy, the deceiver's got a lot going on at one time. Keeping a lot of balls in the air. I think. But he has time to do this, which I thought was very. I don't know. It seemed a little petty. Like, he's the deceiver. He's doing all this stuff. Soon to find out he's got more spell. I mean, there are spells flying back and forth in this thing. But he
major
says
glamours,
to,
minor glamours.
Oh, so many glamours. And he says, look who's talking. I've seen the disappearing pig trick before, old friend. It's long lost its power to fool me. It's like, you're still mad about the pig trick? Like,
Right.
Come on, man. You've been in my skin for like how many years has he been walking around as the deceiver?
Right.
And stewing about the stupid pig trick.
Right. And Willow has gone on to, he's healing the earth. He's dripping blood everywhere. He's
resurrected people.
Yeah. It's like, it would be like, insulting an artist like Van Gogh for like their early like grade school doodles or something.
Right.
But yeah,
you drew that pirate from a matchbook that one time, and it wasn't even very good.
But I also appreciated the receiver responding to "You have a rare gift for lies" with "Look who's talking." It was, again, the quipping retorts are at the Stephanie Tanner of Full House level.
Makes you miss Frangine and Rule, doesn't it, with their wit. This then comes a curious bit. Once again, we get two things about this. We get a new word called skibbled.
Yeah.
Thorn skibbled on fingers and toes. Follow this. He's skibbling like a cat ready for a fight. Okay, got that in your mind?
Yes.
A sideways crab scuttle that put a little more distance. Oh, my
Pick
cat.
one.
Always doing those crab scuttles.
Pick one animal for the love of God.
I guess that was a Clucas. One wanted cat, one wanted crab, and by God, they're both in there.
Right. So, yeah, a horrible crab cat creature is what we're meant to perceive Thorn as, I guess. This was a good description too. They sort of try to establish a theme. The title is Shadow Moon, but they sort of put a lot of moon imagery with the deceiver. This says Thorn could see his breath and feel goosebumps raising from every quarter of his flesh. The more intensely burned the deceiver's flames, the more they drew every scrap of warmth from the room, almost as though he was recreating this chamber in the moon's literal image, transforming it into a desolate, frigid wasteland decorated with the semblance of life, but not life itself. It's almost as though he was doing that. So
it's almost as though he's doing this 3-paragraph description that is sort of confusing.
Thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's a sad attempt to jam moon into there. But I didn't get the sense of what. It seems by the end of the chapter, we're talking a lot about ice and stuff, but it's fire and it's consuming, and so I'm still unclear about what's going on with the.
Yeah, at some point in time, I think they call it witch fire, maybe, and it's fire that freezes you. So I'm sure that's a D&D or Magic the Gathering trope. That's got to be something that's just been around in the fantasy verse for decades now. Sure.
So he's running around. Dodging these lightning bolts. Mm-hmm. And then to get out of there, he starts talking to the floor again.
I mean, you dance with the one that you came to the dance with.
Yes. And I guess he just asks the floor, like, get me out of here. and the floor, takes him away.
Well, yeah, but not before the dragon has revealed himself as the androgynous boy has turned into the dragon.
Oh, yes. This part was so confusing. Maybe you can explain this to me. All of a sudden, the dragon is there and helping him. What? Why?
So that boy who was the minstrel, who is also, they goes out of his way to describe him as, androgynous or, I'm not sure, but his name is Kieran. He starts to turn into a dragon. It says, human guise peeled way before the burning onslaught like the layers of an onion. His flesh stretched high and wide, clawed forelimbs gouging parallel scars in the pristine stone as the crest of its towering head brushed the ceiling. Sinuous neck, leading to a body of such strength that a single sweep of its wings could generate a wind capable of tearing full-grown oaks from the ground. So I don't know if this is, still the audience is thinking this is supposed to happen or if they're just not seeing it. But this is my favorite part of the dragon's description. Thorn thought of a field of grass rippling in the wind, the shape and texture of the stalks changing with the breeze. This was much the same, only instead of variations on a single colored theme, this embraced them all, from those common in life to others that existed only in dreams. he'd never seen such beauty. And so I just thought, like, maybe if you do reunite with Kaya, like, don't tell her that you'd never seen such beauty, that your first thought was, it looks like a field of grass rippling in the wind.
So, with more than one color.
Sure. She'd be like, well, all right. I thought I looked pretty good on our wedding day, but it sounds like one of those, it sounds like an older uncle of mine describing like the azaleas at the Masters for like a subset of guys. That's like the most beautiful thing they can imagine. And now Willow is thinking that about a dragon who looks like grass.
Why does he have time to, I mean, I guess he's never shocked by anything. He does a lot of that. Like, he was put in mind of this. Like, I usually in the middle of a dragon appearing that is as big as the building itself, I would probably be thinking about other things. I don't know. But.
Yeah.
So this was like I pictured the description of this guy who was also the minstrel, right?
Yeah, just who was a tossed-off character.
And then he became an androgynous sort of a wan, I figured like a goth guy with a little cosplay costume on or something, sort of quietly standing in the corner. He just suddenly turns into the Dream Dragon?
Sure, or maybe the Dream Dragon's son. They had the same last name, but maybe it's the same.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I really have no idea.
So we know that the dragon did it then.
Oh, yeah, canonically.
Canonically, yeah.
But yeah, so he turns into them, but then is very quickly dispatched with.
Yes, but he gives up his life?
I guess so. It says, while Thorin watched, every element of the deceiver's attack was turned from him to the dragon, who made no effort to deflect them as they ripped into him, each plunging deep as a spear, and he knew with as deadly an effect. As fast as the deceiver poured his infernal energies into Allura, Ciaran drew them to himself. And at some point it says, the dragon's great head snapped forward. An honest flame leaped forth to counter the lunar cold. A gout of raw heat sufficient to put the molten heart of the world to shame. So Clucas is just putting the molten heart of the world on blast here, just telling it it's total trash compared to this this flame that the dragon is absorbing.
The molten core of the Earth is like, hey, man, I have something to do with gravity. I keep us in orbit. Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, I thought volcanoes were pretty cool, but all right, back to the drawing board. But yeah, the dragon dies. It says, as quickly as the dragon collapsed, it took with it whatever remained of the power that had manifested itself through Allura, so that she collapsed as well into a boneless heap Thorin caught before she struck the floor. And then that's when he gives the floor he says a little help, and then they sink into the floor.
Well, what I don't understand is what is with the proxy? Like, why does he go through? There was a big description of which was very confusing, of him putting his energies through Allura, and then that was harming the dragon. Like, why the proxy? You got lightning bolts coming out your ass. Why can't you just kill this thing? Okay. I just didn't understand that. And that got me thinking, I mean, I can't be the only one. And so naturally I went to the dark web.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And, we have been fortunate in the past that recordings exist of the creation of this, as we've heard in previous episodes.
They were important men, yeah. They had just like Nixon was recording stuff, they probably just do this for posterity, you know?
Right. Like LBJ ordering pants. I thank God that is on a recording. And,
yes.
And so is this the first editor's meeting, when Clucas goes into the editor's office and presents the manuscript, and they work some notes on it.
Oh, wow. So they were rolling together. They were they sort of were attending these meetings together.
Oh, sure.
They were doing
this is a collaborative effort, I guess.
All right.
Yeah. So let's give it a listen.
Sure. George Lucas, Chris Claremont, welcome. Have a seat. George, we're just so pleased with what you've written, and grateful that Chris was there to help clean it up here and there.
Yeah, right. Look, I'm going to sit here and come up with character names for one of my other franchises. Well, you two do whatever this is.
Okay. Chris, we love what you've done, and feel that even though there's no real Willow in the title, and that the story is a naked affront to the movie Willow, that the Willow name is going to propel this book to number one.
Oh, great.
One niggling little issue, though. We don't understand a word of it.
How's that?
Well, it's not entirely true. Example, on page 88, we understood the word horse. Other than that, every single page is thick, soupy confusion that only gets worse with rereading. We walked away profoundly irritated, even enraged.
Okay, well, let's dig in and fix it. Can we start on a page?
Every page.
Elon Sleazebagano. Sorry. Okay, every page?
Yes, every page reads as though some unseen force were slinging drops of tempera paint into your eyes. When I'm done reading, I yell at my kids, who I adore, and then I don't sleep well.
Okay, I see. Hey, I have a fix.
Oh, great!
Plo Koon! What I'll do is I'll put huge sections of dialogue in italics. Here, let me do it now on the dock. What do you think?
Oh, yes, I love it.
Oh, great. And here, I'll inexplicably make some dialogue bold.
Oh, you know what? The plot is becoming clear to me.
Nautilus-ski Papanoida.
But hey, these chapters, they seem too short. They give the appearance that the story is moving along quickly.
Well, then let's get rid of most of them. There.
They're super long and very daunting. Yeah, I'm depressed just looking at them.
Alora is a real pig.
I can see that now. Hey, let's go to print. Congratulations, Chris, George.
Babu Frick.
Babu Frick to us all, George.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah, that makes, the editor is complicit in my mind then after hearing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he caved pretty quick on that.
And those are, do you think those are real George Lucas names? I mean, I'm sure you haven't looked those up, but are those are...
I assume.
Sure,
I mean,
okay.
I think if you put any silly syllables together, you're probably going to hit a George Lucas name at some point, right?
Yeah, but what was the one, like bad? The first one, it was like malfeasance or something, or badigan?
There's a... what was the first? I can't remember. I'm still Babu Frick is still.
Oh, sure, of course,
is clear in my mind from my recent Star Wars adventure.
Well, yeah. So we have a third person to blame as the editor, but he couldn't help me understand what came next after they've disappeared into the floor. They're essentially making their getaway, but Thorn, of course, he meets up with Garen, and they are. Going to try to escape with Corey, who's the demon's daughter, but he goes to try and find the brownies, and this is a very puzzling sequence.
Oh yeah,
they show up, and he's like, Frangine, Rule, like, let's get out of here, guys. But it says they don't see him as Thorn. Essentially, it says Frangine's face twisted ugly with hatred, and when he spoke, he made his words as harsh and cutting as any weapon. "Demon!" he cried. And Thorn replies, "What are you doing?" He shouted, "It's me, Thorn." So they start to like attack him with their little swords and javelins or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But so they
see him as a demon. Yeah,
they see him as a demon. But he just had encountered Garen, and he was like, "I'll get Corey ready." Like, no one else is perceiving him this way.
I did not understand that at all.
All right. Well, good.
There's a lot of you think you look like this, but you look like that. I mean, that is a very tough thing to pull off under the best of circumstances, and these clowns cannot pull it off at all.
What do you mean?
Of saying a lot of people appear to others to not be what they are.
Oh,
like
right.
It happens all the time, and that's tough to pull off. You know, when just straight ahead descriptions are hard enough, but we've got to keep in our mind, okay, so to him, he doesn't look like who he is. and Willow's always changing into a mountain with blue veins running through. Okay, so
right.
it's just like tough to keep all that straight.
It's an LSAT logic puzzle where it's like, this guy sees this as him, but this person only sees her as a
so
a
then
cow.
How does she see him?
And Elora Danan is the ugliest creature that's ever existed, according to the author. So,
oh boy, we'll get to that. So the Corey thing, was she called Corey before?
I believe in the last episode we learned she was named Corey. I don't remember how that came to pass or why she is a demon's daughter, but named, after an 80s heartthrob.
That's exactly what it's like spelling it different doesn't help when it's a complete homonym to the guy who wrote I wear my sunglasses at night. So that's the Corey thing is not, it's not bringing a lot of gravitas to her for me anyway.
No. And she's an interesting character. It seems like she's sort of, almost like android Beth Kitteridge from
exactly.
Tech World,
Yep.
where you're like, I am new to this world. Like, what is this? And so she's sort of like learning as she's going, like sort of how to walk. So she's sort of.
I'm sure we're going to get a Star Trek. What is kiss?
Yes.
And then, at some point,
right.
We better anyway.
Yeah, because she's fallen in love with someone, whether it's Garen or Thorn. We will have to see.
But when she shows up, when they ride in, we get a clothing description.
Oh, yep.
Found Corey a decent set of clothes, knee-high riding boots. He just found them. Right. Buckskin breeches, cotton shirt, leather tunic, a sheepskin-lined vest, all belted at the waist.
It was a big relief for me. I was disappointed that there was no jerkin. But it was a huge relief just to know what the breeches were made of. She'll be creaming her buckskins at some point in time, a la Charles E. Harris.
So she was, oh God, forgotten that.
Yeah.
So was naked and not knowing. She has no idea what clothes are. So Garen is like pulling on those pants one leg at a time. And like, no, put it in like this way. No, the boot goes so your foot goes into it. So I wish we'd have seen that scene for a couple page description of Garen trying to dress Corey up in knee-high riding boots.
Yeah, she's trying to eat her belt.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of selective. Is she's able to accept stuff like that, but she does act like it's her first day on Earth in other situations. Mm-hmm. This was also good to know after we get that detailed description. This was seen as secondary by the authors, but it turns out Thorn might be the least observant dumbass alive, because it says there was a tattoo over her left eye so intense and colorful he didn't understand why he'd missed it earlier. And so I was like, oh, is this going to be like a very subtle, like, teardrop or something? Is it just does it turn out her eyebrows are tattooed in like some people do? No, it says it filled in the whole of the brow ridge of her eye socket and then flared up and out along the flank of her skull until it met the hairline. So she's, it's like a Mike Tyson tribal tattoo or something. And Thorn was like, what, was that there the whole time?
Maybe, Garen got her dressed quickly and she's like, oh, tattoo parlor. What is tattoo parlor? And maybe she got some fresh ink right there. I don't know.
Thorn's going to notice that she has her, tongue split like a reptile, like some people do at Comic-Con.
But yeah, him missing that tattoo it's like that video of how many times do they pass the basketball back and forth, and then you didn't notice that a dancing bear walked through.
Right? Yeah.
How did you miss this?
And so now that they have, I don't know what part of the floor they ended up coming back out of, but they are going to flee because whether the minor glamour wore off or if just all this chaos from the witch fire burning the city has now alerted everybody that something bad is happening, and it is total chaos. People are fleeing, people are looting, but I liked this sentence. The city was chaos. Whatever people had expected from Alora's ascension, this wasn't it, and they weren't taking it well.
Yeah.
So, buildings are burning, things are collapsing, violence. There's been a dragon that died. Rats are now storming the streets. And so it's like, whatever people had expected from, Princess Diana's wedding, this wasn't it.
Right.
So it's like, whatever people had expected on September 11th, 2001, this wasn't it, and they're not taking it well.
Happy about it. Yeah, I love their reaction, though, is smash and grabs.
Yeah.
It says people start enriching themselves. That's their reaction to, well, this is unexpected that our town is being consumed by witch fire.
Right.
Hey, there are some necklaces over there. I can grab a handful of those.
Yeah, but I mean, in traditional looting, people go for some, big ticket electronics and stuff like that. But are they just going for some malted grains or something? Like, are they going for the the fattest hog there is in town? Like, in terms of
I don't
medieval
know.
looting is a.
Because then he says, and then it's kind of a turnaround where he says, no, the animals are fleeing, But the people are really deeply unhappy and starting to smash windows with garbage cans and, take VCRs or whatever. But then they're resigned to they stay there. They don't flee.
Right.
That's a big part of it. It's like only the animals are running and the people are just like, well, I don't know. I guess we deserve it. What are you going to do? Run? No.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't understand that either. Why are they at 1 second panicking, the next they're resigned to just dying in their city?
Well, we got this sentence too. It said, a few ran, but it says, even those who ran didn't appear to have the stomach for it, and Thorn knew with heartsick certainty that none would escape. So I guess the situation is more dire than the author's words are able to indicate. Again, maybe if we had seen some sort of drawing, there would have been just like the sheer scope of the destruction and the collapsing everything might have been better indicated than it was by just saying Thorn looked around and knew that everyone was going to die.
Yeah, but so here's it was as if, just reading right where you just read there, it was as if the whole city understood that it was doomed and people were going through the motions, a purely back brain response. No different than the primal mindless urge for survival felt by the rider's horses. Yes, no different except that they're the exact opposite.
Yes.
What do you mean?
What was it? Mindless drive for survival?
Yeah, so the animals have a mindless urge for survival.
Yes.
But for them, they understood that they were doomed and people were merely going through the motions. Exactly the same things.
Yes. He went to the buffet and stuffed his face, almost as if a starving child on the street would have.
So I didn't understand that, but it is what it is, and we're out of this town, soon enough. But not before we get the rat stampede.
Yes,
that was a nice surprise.
I liked this. This reminded me, it was very similar to a Klein description. Thorn saw cats and dogs, household pets and beasts of burden, vermin of every description, horses and mules, sheep and cattle. So vermin of every description. Does that, I assume, I'm taking it at face value. So there were like hot rats, like there were attractive rats. There were like, cockroaches who were like a little rogue-like, they were sort of like, just making ribald comments and, tipping their fedoras.
There were very amusing scorpions. Of every description. That's what I was trying to get. Like
sassy mosquitoes.
Yeah, the centipedes, going in a kick line as they go out. There's a lot going on here.
It just reminded me of one of the very first sentences of Ready Player One was like, the characters in the background did a variety of 80s dance moves. You didn't even try. You didn't give us two and then say, and more.
The rats swarm the gates, and that brings me to my first sound challenge for you.
Oh, boy.
So the gates themselves are closed tight, but that didn't even slow them down as they rushed up and over the wall. But some of them didn't make it, and so it says they giving passionate voice to their distress. So my challenge to you is you're a rat who can't make it over the wall, so please give passionate voice to your distress.
My darling rat Emma, I fear that we may not make it over the wall. I wish that you will please escape, do what you can to survive, and bring our thousands of revolting rat children with you to whatever new Eden you may discover beyond the walls. Thousands of other rats are currently trampling me, perhaps more of our beloved children, but
do I have to wait for this? Or
no,
is it almost over?
Yeah, I'm just, my passion is the last thing that remains, is my life essence.
I'm going to get going. Timmy, Jane,
yes,
you hop
Timmy,
the wall there.
He was always one of my favorite of our
goodbye,
1,000 children.
Then. No. All right, have
Emma,
good.
Please.
We'll set up. We'll do what you said. Goodbye.
Brad, Emma. That was passionate enough.
That was very passionate, yeah. Wow. Speak about great works of art. Contrasted with this.
Speaking of great works of art, this was a good sentence. He was beyond nausea, but fortunately also beyond the capacity to imagine what he'd feel like when this was done. And that is how I feel reading Shadow Moon.
Beyond the capacity.
I can't even. I don't know what it will be like when we're done with this. It's like imagining what the world will be like at the end of the 2020s. It's who can say.
Right. It's like trying to imagine the universe, and then when the universe stops, what's beyond it? It's very tough to imagine.
Yes, I feel like Shadow Moon has always been there. This was a good good exchange. Do you believe that what you say? Asked the demon child, and that is a camel-cased one-word, demon child. It says, "It doesn't matter what you do. He certainly can't stop you. Why did you? It's not the demon way." The demon child replies, "Am I a demon?" So, 1, we have demon child. 2, she doesn't know she's a demon, and she asks, "Am I a demon?" Which I thought might be the a good follow-up to the that children's book, Are You My Mother?
Right.
But, yeah, so the naivety of her is going to be an interesting wrinkle. But then Willow's response to that is to do, I think, the 4th Iceman impression of this book. He opened his mouth to reply, then closed it with the clack of teeth brought sharply together because he had no true answer for her.
I have exactly that. This is definitely on purpose now. This is it's a subtle nod to Mad Mardigan, but it's definitely there.
Weird.
Because, until you've seen Top Gun, no one has ever snapped his teeth at you, I assume, and nor have you done that to anyone. I can't imagine. It's not an act that I've ever seen humans do. I guess I've seen a wolf do it, maybe.
Yeah, but, like a chimp to sort of establish dominance.
Yeah, but this is happening quite a bit. The clack of teeth, which also seems very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know if the microphone can pick this up, but it's ow.
Yeah, no, yeah. I had a teeth falling out dream like within the past week or so, and it's the sort of thing that doing that makes you just makes you nervous.
Right. But that was the conversation that it's not in my ebook that I have right here, but that's when they're riding away, right? And he just asks her a question when they're on the horse. I didn't understand a word of that. That whole "am I a demon" thing. Like, what? Yeah, what is her character? Establish it, Clucas. I don't know what's going on with her.
Yeah, there was a sentence earlier that I skipped, but it said the deceiver operated on a level he never imagined even existing until he met the demon. And I was like, well, that is zero information because we don't know jack about the demon either. Like the demon, all we know is the demon speaks in bold, and he might not have a body. And so like she's like, "Am I a demon?" And he's like, "I'm really piecing this all together myself, honey. Like it's is not
right.
I'm not a good guy to ask."
Let's just, let's sort that out once we ride away from the consuming ice fire that is killing apparently millions or whatever, hundreds of thousands.
But yeah, so the way that they're going to get out of there is that Thorn has to do like a magic, which we're led to believe is a very impressive feat. But we've again seen him talk to mountains and revive the earth, so like we know he can do whatever he needs to. He bursts open these doors that were thicker than a stout man's body. And then it says, the sound of Thorn's voice echoed across the plaza, and the scene was suddenly gripped by a silence that was as profound and all-encompassing as it was sudden. Not just the absence of sound, but even the concept. So that's annoying. And then it says, this we get into more Lovecraftian talk here. This was a blast whose sound matched its fury, yet the noise was so far beyond human comprehension that Garen had no true sense of what it was. Asked, he could never describe it. So well done, authors. You've really conveyed a great image here. We don't care. We're punting. It was weird.
But I also think it's weird to say to project Garen into the future of when he's asked about it. So we know that, I guess from that sentence, we know that Garen lives. And someone and is describing, I was with this guy, this little dude, and he blasted this door open. And how loud was it? Oh, God, that's a good question. I can't even describe it.
Maybe that's
why did you even bring it up then? I don't know.
Right, yeah, that's the post-credit sequence is Garen, 50 years in the future, bouncing a grandchild on his knee and being asked about that and being like, can't do it.
I like to think, technically, obviously, it only had to happen once for this to be a true sentence, but I like to think that Garen goes around, he's like an Uber driver who Yeah, that house over there, Johnny Cash's, he was a good friend of mine. Like, I didn't ask.
Right.
Garen is talking about the door blast to people like, God, he's bringing this up again. We weren't talking about doors or blasts.
Right. And we're not even able to describe it.
Right. Why do you keep bringing it up and then stopping?
Please go back to talking about your screenplay. Let's see. This is where we got our second implacable of the section. Anna Carey, however, wasn't interested in the fugitives. She leaped from her own horse once it recovered a semblance of composure and forged her way along the wall to the gate, plowing across the flood of wildlife with grim, implacable determination. Yeah.
Let's remember the wildlife is not just the vermin. Let's remember that it was, cattle and horses, and so she's just marching against this, think of the movement of wildebeests apparently across the Great Migration. And she's just weaving her way through it with implacable determination.
Yeah, through, every type of vermin that's ever existed. There's probably a snake in the shape of a pretzel who has the voice of Jimmy Durante, who's like, how did I get into a pretzel?
Maybe there's a pair of them and they do a little Bing and Crosby routine. Who knows? Sorry, man. That was low. But I'm told that because I had horses when I was younger, that horses really won't, even unless they get super panicked, they will not step on other things. Like they try not to, they're not going to step on your dog. They're aware of where their feet are. But I just think of all these animals running with a thick carpet of vermin. Like what is happening there? Are they all just is it just a mass of gore and crushed rats and insects up to your knees? Like what is
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that a medieval kingdom would have been, one of the most rat-heavy places that's ever existed. So it's got to be just like bubble wrap in terms of stepping on rats as you flee.
Yeah, and they keep going because, this chapter soon comes to an end, but I believe the vermin stampede continues in the next chapter, so it is quite sizable.
This go ahead.
Well, so the chapter ends with Anna Carey coming in kind of like the like the fugitive or something. Like, we got a hard target search. We got 3 people, and she says to her underlings, find a printer. There should be one in Bow Camel, I think is what it says. Uh-huh. So that's the exciting end of the chapter after she figures out, like, I saw them. There were 3 of them. She describes them, like a hunter describing its prey, and then says, now could you shoot over to Sir Speedy's and get some flyers printed up, and we'll drop them in the surrounding villages.
It's amazing. Yeah, she says, I want flyers at every crossroads, posted at every inn and way station, heralds as well as the length of the peninsula, with a shipment to go out to all the East Bay cities. So flyers are, one of my favorite thing in fantasy. But this is like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, as if he was giving the specific instructions for and put the reward at $10,000. She's expressing that she wants them alive as well, but she's I think she's like rooting through her pockets for a coupon for the printer.
I dearly hope that the next chapter would be Anna Carey like standing over 2 guys at the printer, like, no, that font is too big up top. You need to move that down because I want the impact font here. Have you guys ever designed a flyer before? For God's sake. And it's not a trifold, you morons. We have to paste it up.
Right. Yeah. Do not go with that paperweight. We are printing up 10,000 of these. Even if it is 1 cent more, that's going to add up.
God. Oh, that struck me as a very funny detail. It seems like there could have been some other way. Like, let the, like she has a network of spies or something. Like,
yes.
let it be known. Let it go round. Instead, it's
put out whispers to all the sparrows. That's
Instead, in this fantasy, flyers.
Right. And I not to impugn the profession as a whole, but my college buddies worked at a print shop. That was sort of where they would go to like listen to music and, deal with the one person who came in to print out band flyers. It wasn't, I'm guessing they're going to head into this print shop, and the person who was forced to work during the ascendant ceremony is not going to be the top-notch employee that they might be hoping for. So this could be quite a process.
Yeah, and also, is he calling branch stores? Like, well, I don't stock that many things here at this one, because this is an outpost one. This is co-camel or whatever, but
Right.
I got a bigger one up there, but I can't get that in until Tuesday at the earliest.
Oh, so yeah, but then they make it happen in the next chapter. These they find some like rude mechanicals who come in, and they're like, yeah, remember the flyer said that we have to bring him in alive, so to go easy on him.
Right.
So yeah, we laugh now, but it works.
And I guess that flyer they're used to seeing them. It's not like there was some banner up and it was telling us that we should capture these people. Apparently, there's it's like the
a robust flyer culture.
Right. It's the 90 or the theses nailed to the door. Like apparently the thing that I didn't know is the door was always filled with stuff.
Right.
This was just another one. Like he just stapled up his thing, and it's like, what is this one? So yeah, there were flyers everywhere. Apparently, there's people all over.
Drummer wanted, influences the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. Okay.
Dog walker needed. Yeah.
But they are once they have gotten out of the city. I think this is related to the ice fire. We got this great image. They are nothing in her memory prepared her for such a cold as this. She felt the mucus freeze in her nostrils and fumbled a scarf across her face to keep from burning her lungs. And I just reminded me of, I think Bill Watterson claims he was the first person to ever use the word boogers in a daily comic strip when Calvin went outside and said, "Don't you hate it when your boogers freeze?" So it could have been he could have been paying an homage to that in this scene.
Oh, I dearly hope that was the case. Yeah.
And this was another good. This was similar to the vermin description, but it said there were no more flames save for stray residual flickers here and there. Yet everything before her glowed like a campfire that had burned down to coals. She thought of ice and diamonds, of every image that came to mind associated with winter and desolation, and found them all wanting. So she's thinking of every image associated with winter. So she's thinking of like gingerbread man, ugly sweater parties, Ralphie beating up Scut Farkas.
She's thinking of those novelty cups that you put hot chocolate in. Yeah, exactly.
She's thinking of the one gross guy at every party who wears like mistletoe hanging over his belt type of thing.
But again, she found them wanting. So there's a lot of a lot of shade being thrown at sort of natural phenomenon here. Winter sucks. The core of the earth sucks.
Right. Yes, molten earth. But yeah, so that's the. I think that's Alora who's doing that, or is that Anna Carey?
I think it's Anna Carey.
Yeah,
she does the little
Anna Carey has just been also knocked unconscious by her buddy who she used to date. Says she wasn't in a mood to argue, so she hit him, a blow that would have dropped most men. But he hit her harder, a pair of punches that took her wind away and left her hanging onto consciousness by her fingernails.
That's at the end of this chapter?
Yeah, I guess she was, I forget. They had some sort of dispute about whether these were good guys getting away or not, and her main commander, who was one of the guys that visited Willow in the dungeon one of the 5 times people went down there, knocks her unconscious.
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess I missed that.
No, that's fine. There's a lot here to miss.
There was the part, so they rode past each other, right, as they were heading out of this, after they blew the doors. They ride out, and they're riding in, and that's when she says, like, yeah, they rode by, I saw him. It was a little guy wearing, boots, and then she goes into a very detailed description. She noticed them while the torrents of vermin were, being stomped underfoot. So I thought, well done there.
Yes. Was that a hot rat? Sorry, lost my train of thought. But yeah, little guy, no jerkin I noticed on the demon child.
There was a cotton fabric that was sort of underneath the leather outer. Yes. But that's all I have that's chapter 9, right?
Yeah. So yeah, chapter 9. I mean, some stuff happened. It was hard to say. I mean, left with not knowing what happened to the deceiver either, or why he had to look like sexy Willow to begin with. That's
right.
That's
for
been,
many years, right?
It's been glossed over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but the chapter ended, but some stuff did happen. They fled a city that got lit on fire. A dragon died. They became the floor again, and their boogers froze.
And they got and Willow got attacked by the brownies and almost stabbed.
Right. Yes, and it could be the last time we see them. We don't know that. I don't suspect it will happen, but he's very maudlin about having to leave them behind in the following chapter.
Yeah, there are tears shed coming up, but yeah.
But until then, I think we should use this natural break between chapter 9 and 10 to do some fanfic or real.
Oh boy, my confidence is not high, I'll be honest.
Is that because I went 5 for 5 last time?
There is that. That weighs over me, sure. Sure.
I think this one has been easier, though, in general.
There's a famous line by a tennis player named Vitas Gerulaitis, who, believe it or not, was an American guy.
Wow.
He got beat by...
Also a George Lucas character.
Yes. I think McEnroe or somebody beat him 6 times in a row, and he very dryly said one time, nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 7 times in a row.
Wasn't it, let this be a lesson to you? Nobody.
Let this be a lesson to you. Very funny.
Yes. All right. Well, we have 5 passages from Shadow Moon, potentially, or 5 passages that are fanfic by our loyal listeners, or some combination of the two. And let's just get it right to it. The first one. Anna Carey could count no certain survivors of the Lions in her confused memory of the fight. It was impossible. She was their commander, and the world could not continue to exist if it had lost them all. The alley appeared quiet, but her horse reared again, squealing gutturally, and the princess who grew up in the saddle lost her grip. The world canted as her saddle slipped sideways, straps damaged in the fight. Anna Carey stuck the cobblestone side on with her ribcage and curled instinctively beneath dancing hooves, felt as much as she heard the horse pounding away. A yellow light slanted over the cobblestones, defining each stone as if it were a small mountain, and a ringing, grating sound approached, like that of fine steel being drawn over stone. Despite her chest refusing to draw breath, Anna Carey raised her head, blinked into the light. Approaching with a hulking step was a naked woman carrying a stable lantern and dragging a broadsword as if she'd forgotten she had it. Fight I will, the vision said.
Oh, see, yeah, other people are learning. They're learning. Because it's very subtle until a naked woman with a sword. But I think since there's already been one hovering naked woman, the demon child, I'm going to say fanfic.
Right.
Again, my confidence is low.
Okay, let's do number 2. I believe this is yours, he said, pressing a silvery object into her hand. She gazed at the clip for a long time, head bowed and lips pressed together with emotion. I thought it forever lost, said Anna Carey softly. May I? Thorne asked. He leaned over and gathered her hair behind her neck, gently snapping the clip in place. Their eyes met. Against his will, he leaned forward and kissed her, powerless to resist the attraction he felt. Feelings he had long suppressed shot through his very soul, perhaps from the bond they still shared, or from something more. Looks as if you got your good spirits back, came Garen's voice, accompanied by a cheeky wink.
Well, I can't see that happening. I'm going to say that that's fanfic.
Okay. Number 3. The blood whip came now for him, his vision flooding scarlet as tendrils stabbed through his eyes and poured fury into every particle of his body. The stag lord thrust himself forward, hands grasping Thorne beneath the armpits and lifting him high overhead until he was poised on the tips of the man's horns. The energies of the blood whip arced around and through them, both spread-eagling Thorne and stretching his extremities to their utmost until joints began to pop from their sockets. His mouth had likewise gone wide as flesh would allow, teeth bared to such an extent he thought all of the component parts of him would tear apart, his expression twisting into a rictus of unbearable agony that he knew was but a fraction of what the stag lord had endured running through the fire.
Oh, I don't know.
Stag lords, blood whips?
I mean, I like it. I suppose you can't tell me whether they're camel caps or not.
Stag lord is camel caps in one word.
Okay. And blood whip?
Blood whip is 2 words. Neither of those are capitalized.
I see blood whip as being a possible food trend in the paleo community. Like,
yes.
No, you just drink your meat. It's called a blood whip.
Whipping it infuses with vital oxygenated ions.
That's right. It's grass-fed blood, of course. I don't know. I'm going to say it's
stalling.
Real.
It's real?
Okay. Real.
All right. And now we have number 4. Ulfgood of good earth. No, that is not you. That one died a dozen years gone. The deceiver continued to circle on the peak, prodding at Thorn with mind spikes. And and Drumheller, also no more. The one who goes before to draw, to warn, failed. Thorn clenched numb fists until they went white. You're stalling, he barked at the deceiver. Moonrise. The moon, source of his power. He had to stay focused. You think I am weak because the moon hides, do you? We are so much alike, Athrit. You could join me, claim of all of our power together. Join you? Never. Thorn reached downward with his insight, anchoring himself for what he must do next, weary attention fumbling with the repeated attempts to speak to ancient stone. No more room with one demon resident, sneered the deceiver, tasting triumph. Go to hell, shouted Thorn, and rent the mountaintop in twain.
well, I like it a lot, but I'm going to say that it's fanfic.
Oh, wow. Prodding at Thorn with mind spikes.
Mind spikes.
Number 5. The heaving sea cast the now tiny Dromond down again into a watery trough from which nothing of the coast could be perceived. They were lifted again as if by a spell, and the craggy shoreline loomed dangerously close, presenting a tumble of sea-crusted boulders the size of a house, garlanded with spitting foam to the ship's elegant prow. Morag stood wide-footed at the tiller, precariously leaning with each pitch of the sodden deck. She shouted, "Where's that damnable channel, Rin? Nothing awaits us hereabout but death from kraken upon the rocks." Her emerald eyes seemed to glow against the gray light as they cast about the deck, but the weir had gone, slipped unseen from his post, and into the wall of the next cresting wave.
Well, I'm going to say that that's real.
Okay. All right.
I sense from your silence that I did not do well.
No, you did good. You did good. Let's go through them. You got 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Yeah. So number 1, that was the Anna Carey is not certain. There's lion survivors. Fight I will to the naked woman with the broadsword. You thought that was fanfic. The woman was a step too far. That was fanfic. Excuse me. Fanfic written by Marie.
Okay.
Number 2 was Thorn smooching Anna Carey. You thought that was fanfic. That was fanfic. Written by Melissa. That is fanfic in like its truest nature. Getting characters to bang, yeah. That's where it all began.
I just thought of Kaya. I mean, I just can't believe it.
Right, yes, exactly. Who is alive, is not alive, we're not sure.
Yep, not sure.
Number 3, the Blood Whip and the Stag Lord. You said that was real. That is real.
Wow.
So we've got, 150 pages left in this. A Stag Lord and a Blood Whip are going to be become prominent characters.
Once again, Willow's going to be stretched and crushed and pulverized and bloody and joints popping.
He's exhausted beyond the realm of any mortal who has ever existed, and yet he's able to do whatever he needs to. And so, very funny. He's like Stretch Armstrong.
Right.
Number 4... that was Mind Spikes. You thought that was fanfic. That one was fanfic. That was written by Patrick. That one I thought was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Athrit, I don't know what that means. Athrit. I don't know if that comes back or if that's something he looked ahead and took. But and then the last one was them back on the boat, Morag yelling at Rin. You thought that was real. That was also fanfic written by Marie.
Okay,
so,
because Rin makes an appearance.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Roped me in.
Preyed on that. Well done, everybody. That was the first fanfic of the 20s, and a lot of those fanfic writers were Patreon supporters, which we appreciate. I just posted the second set of Tech War cards to Patreon, so if you want to see what some really dumb scenes of Tech War look like illustrated by a really untalented artist. I would recommend going on over to Patreon and doing that. And the best part of the Tech War cards was the Goulart speak very much translates to the back of the cards. It has those sentences that were a trademark of Tech War where it's like, "What?" shouted Connor. "Would you like for dinner?"
Oh, great. Wow.
So that's, they're very, very hard to read, but it was a simpler time of that being the only confusion you would get.
Yeah, those are, wow. Once again, seem like a warm blanket.
So yeah, patreon.com/372pages. You can just chip in as little as $1 or $5 gets you early access to every episode and lets you get your fanfic in ahead of everyone else.
Well, I think it's fair to say, if we combine, we're 9 for 10.
Yeah.
Over the past two.
I think, yeah, either step the game up or maybe this one is just impossible to fake. It's just, it's impossible for people to come up with what makes this so unreadable, I think.
There's not, it finds new ways to be sort of confusing. And so, yeah, it's tough to get a beat on it and stay with it.
And on that note, the first sentence of chapter 10 that I noted sort of mirrors that the reader's experience as well. Nobody following, Gurion called as his weary horse labored the last stretch. And I thought he was just going to add the narrative, that is. Nobody's following. And
Not a thing. No, I'm not following it at all. But it is contiguous, right? They're still running away.
Yeah, this is just an arbitrary chapter point. They're fleeing into the snot freezing cold.
Mm-hmm. And this is where we first of all get to this is one I had not heard before. Who hadn't yet twigged to her true identity. This is Garen with Alora. Hadn't twigged to her true identity. Now, I looked it up. It's a real word. Have you ever used that or heard it anywhere?
Of course I haven't.
Okay.
And so, but we hadn't heard of tumbled to either, like to mean the same thing, like to understood or figured out. And yet people wrote in being like, well, my, great uncle studied abroad in England during the 60s. And he would have you know that was very common for about a month during that time. So.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking twigged either. I'm putting it in the same tumbled to category, and the fates be damned.
Settle down stamp.
Yep. If we meet in person and you want to try to convince me, I'll give you 3 minutes, and then its fists are flying.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't twigged that, but this was another character who's not yet done something. You don't sound happy, Thorn told him from where he was hunkered down by Alora. She was still dead to the world, and that was starting to worry him. So if I'm ever, if we finish a live show and in the car riding back to our house in Nashville or something, if I'm dead to the world when you put me in the car, and then I'm still dead by the time we get back, and when that starts to worry you, I would take slight offense to that. Right. I might want you to be a little concerned about that the first time you notice I'm dead to the world, but.
Nope, no medical attention. I'm sure he'll be fine.
And it's just starting to worry you, let alone trying to treat it with some sort of, magic spell, as we've seen him be able to use whenever the need suits him.
Yes, he resurrects people. Just fix her. Stop. Take 2 minutes, fix her, and be on your way.
But no, he doesn't do that. Instead, he fishes another carrot stick from his pouch and crunches absently. Which is just I guess he's just eating the baby carrots that you can get as a substitute to French fries at McDonald's.
It's in those the little plastic bags with the holes in them, and so the water can drain out. And really gross. I was always it always shocked me to learn that the baby carrots are just put on a lathe and spun down to baby carrot size. Yeah.
Like you whittle a carrot down.
That's not a baby carrot. That's a hunk of that's a lathed carrot.
I read something one time that was, I don't know, maybe someone who was either trying to reform school lunches or something, but they posited that baby carrots could be the ideal snack to sort of trick kids into eating them. And one of the things they cited was that the orange color was so similar to like Cheetos or Doritos. And I was like, well, that maybe if it was the demon child who had just regained her memory in a new world, but the very first time you bite into a carrot and it does not taste at all like a Cheeto, which tastes good, as opposed to a carrot, which tastes bad, that might not be something that a kid is fool me once on.
Yes, I mean, whipped cream might look like mayonnaise, but you take a spoonful, you're not going to be like, well, I mean, it's the same color. I'm just going to keep eating.
The person did not think very highly of, kids as a whole, I guess.
Right. But I think highly of the horses who are being tended to by the demon child. Okay. Because it says, by rights, the animals should have been in a sweat, responding to those elements of self, capitalized, that made her native kind anathema to more stable physical forms. yet they accepted her as they would any ordinary person. I just thought, good on the horses. I mean, it's not her fault that her dad's a floor demon.
Right.
And then they're just like, look, it's like Schwarzenegger's dad was a Nazi. He's clearly not a Nazi. I'm not going to hold it against him. And I don't think horses should either. So I thought, good on them.
Yeah, I mean, but she's not even sure. So I guess that the Willow was walking underneath the horses here. Did it say that then?
Yeah, they're huge horses. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I thought he was able to walk underneath with plenty of clearance, which my mind went to him being perfectly eye level with some impressive horse junk. I couldn't.
I figured you were eventually going to get there.
Put it right there. We get 8 more sentences about how hideous Allura is, and yet none about Willow turned around and was smacked in the face with a.
Right. So. I do want to hear about the puppets in the Willow verse who have locking pins in their knee joints.
Yes,
because someone is dropping as though the locking pins had been similarly yanked from his joints, folding more neatly than an articulated puppet. So the Willowverse has a rich puppet community,
right?
Sophisticated puppets who have locking pins in their knees. I want to see that show.
Yeah, they might act out the story of the first Willow. That could be part of the lore.
High on a hill stood a lonely
Yes.
otter.
Yeah, they looked like those puppets in that short we did that was made by the same guy as that, which were terrifying, and I would take the locking pins out of their knees too if it would render them unable to chase me while I sleep.
No amount of carrot sticks would make me put up with that.
But yeah, so pretty much the plot is that they essentially said everyone's dead, and also everyone had traveled to the kingdom. So it was essentially like all the dignitaries and like rulers had been here to witness this, and this was essentially like a devious plan to then wipe all these people and thrust the realm into chaos.
Right. So this is like I mean, I hate to invoke it, but it's like 1,000 9/11s or something.
Yes. Yeah. But that's just to sort of, if you're not following along, that is where we're at in this story. The demon child turns out not to be all bad because she refers to you and those two awful. Oh no, this is Allura. She's a pig child, but she's not all bad. You and those two awful little men. Her mouth twisted in disgust, which didn't do wonders for her appearance. And then she says, "Bug men." So she hates the brownies. So I'm on board, but it is amazing that he just continues to work in these digs about the 13-year-old girl's appearance.
It's and it continues. But so she's kicking the crap out of him, right? The pig girl is.
Uh-huh.
And he's unable to comprehend it. It says his mind was vaguely aware of what was happening, but all the wake-up connections hadn't been made. The horses were hitched to the wagon, but he lacked the reins to direct them, which is an odd way to put it because we just had a description of horses, and this has nothing to do with them, but whatever.
But he uses another good metaphor upcoming to describe her memory, which has been, I think, attacked by the deceiver. It says, her memory was a mess, like a chalk pattern on a blackboard that some prankster had attacked with capricious abandon.
Oh, boy.
So it's not implacable abandon, but it's very similar. So I think that what he essentially says is that just someone took an eraser and like erased part of a drawing. So there's weird missing parts, but she does now remember that Willow came up dressed as a caterer, and that she threw food at him in her bedroom.
Right, and what she's furious about is that she turned silver.
Oh yeah. So she's also turned silver.
Yeah, and so he pushes. He kind of tries to explain it, or is like, it's not me, or whatever. And then she was awkward getting up. Too much belly. No reserves of strength. Oh yeah, you just can't waste an opportunity to get a dig in at her.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we wouldn't have thought too good of her if she was just being a rude child throwing plates and food at people. We know she's not nice, but then he just has to ugg her up in order to really get the point across, I guess. Yeah,
and she's still, as I understand, she's still stuffed into this the ceremonial gown, right? Which has like layers and layers of clothing and stuff on it.
Some of it was burnt away when the deceiver blasted her with electricity, but Yeah, we later learn she has clothes on that she doesn't want to wear twice.
Okay.
But this was another good metaphor. Clouds had crept in while they slept. The sky was a mantle of sullen gray from end to end, as though some giant had spread his dirty eiderdown across the world. Which personally, it bugs the hell out of me when giants do that. So I related to this. Eiderdown, I had to look it up, was the soft, small feathers from the breast of the female eider duck.
That's right. So, it's just down. Yes.
Yes.
Eiderdown. But the fact that's another painting a picture. I wonder if the giants who spread their dirty eiderdown, are they the ones going to those puppet shows and having a good time? That I'd love to know.
Right. Or when they are told to leave the puppet show because they insist on sitting in the front row and the kids behind them can't see them, and then they're in a bad mood. Is that when they spread the dirty eiderdown? Like, it's sullen and gray, so it's sort of like their pig pen cloud they leave everywhere.
Right. So then
it's a rich, magical world we're inhabiting.
Yes. And then Garen discovers who she is, right? Which I guess as a plot point, I don't really know why we care.
Well, Garen shows up having been captured by the salty lot, right? By like the drunks from the tavern.
Yes, eventually. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they push him over a hill. He's all bound up, right?
Uh-huh.
These guys who burp and fart and drink disgusting beer have captured them because they've seen the flyer.
Yes, exactly. So, we laughed, but
very effective, because I figure this is just hours later. I mean, they rode through the night kind of a thing or whatever.
Yeah, so they printed them and got them posted, and like there's people probably still hanging up flyers in the East Bay or wherever he told them to go to, and yet they're going to be for naught.
And you've heard the ads on the radio where they advertise radio advertising. Like, you want to get your message out to your people? Radio advertising. The flyers, man, holy moly!
Right,
they are very effective.
Yeah. So these guys saw them, and I guess he went to their bar looking for help or something, but they pretty much jumped him and bound him up right away. And I guess they take them back to the bar.
Yes, that happens with one of those tiny carriage returns.
Yes,
where it was very confusing for me. On my ebook, did not exist, so I had to dive to the mass market paperback to confirm that. Oh yeah, no, there wasn't a big missing chunk. They're in the bar.
Yeah,
which they say the amount of money. I don't have it right in front of me, but from memory, it's like. More than their entire village has made for like 1,000 lifetimes or something.
Right. Yes.
It was just like, a billion, jillion, gajillion dollars.
Right. But it is like not a very, it's a very like, the blue collarist joint there is. So like, I don't know if they're just like a washed up like mining town where the mine went dry or something.
Yeah, so all guys have to do is sit around and wait for the next flyer to come up.
Described the tavern thusly: the air inside the roadside alehouse was so thick with smoke and the stench of unwashed bodies that the breathing was sheer torture. To me, that sounded like how Bridget would have reviewed O'Brien's in San Diego.
You're maybe giving it too much credit. Yeah, she was not a fan. What I missed from this, so they capture him and bring him back, and it says that they were directing increasingly crude jibes at Willow.
Yes.
And yet it's left there. Like, what are they, man?
Yeah.
I want to hear these. They start off crude and then they get more crude.
Right. Bet you could walk under a horse and inspect its junk at that height.
Oh, that's pretty crude. Luckily, it's not going to get any cruder than that.
Yeah, they're like they're nasty dudes. It says they were men to whom violence came as naturally as a heartbeat, the kind overeager to demonstrate their courage and prowess against those weaker than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, like they're Oakland Raiders fans who are just sitting there, and they talk about how gross their beer is all day.
Rot gut beer that they burp the foam off his rot gut beer.
I mean, we joke, but like when I go to like a baseball game and the Budweisers are on special for $5, I'm like, well, that's better than paying $15 for something else.
Right.
You can you're not even choking it down. It's like, so I mean, I'm very curious how bad that must be. I bought Lauren's dad some old Billy beer one time for a gift.
Oh, sealed up? The sealed
talking about it.
beer?
Yeah, it came brand new, and by the time it arrived, it had either like eaten through the cans or it burst, and I guess that could be what it was like. It was not even like resembling beer. It was definitely a cleaning product at this point in time. So I guess that could be what they're doing. And then again, though, that could be how the Billy beer originally tasted.
I believe that was its reputation, although, I don't know. I was much too young for Billy beer, but the amount of time spent talking about Billy Carter while I was a kid was
oh man,
far outsized to his his impact upon the world.
The conversation. Yeah, I mean, that was, talk about, a simpler time, I guess, but he was just, the country version, like it was that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. My dad used to listen to a morning radio show that was very popular in Chicago, and I remember one morning, eating my cereal and trying to read the cereal box, and guys were calling into this host going, "I got a 12-pack that's sealed of Billy beer, and I'm going to keep it. And how much do you think that'll be worth in 10 years?" And then they would sit for like an hour speculating on guys.
Wow.
I'm just going to go to school and not think about this anymore.
Yeah, it was essentially like the Superman dies probably comic of its day, where it's like, well, these are going to be valuable, and every single person thought that, so nothing was valuable about it.
Right. Guys were actually planning their retirements based on their Billy beer. Not a good move.
The presidential tradition of loser brothers, though, is
it's great.
It really is incredible.
Speaking of, how's Rooster
McConaughey?
McConaughey, yeah.
I mean, we haven't gotten, my Google alert for Rooster McConaughey has not popped up in obituary yet. So,
did he actually name his son Miller Lite?
Yeah.
So that he could say, "I'm holding Miller Lite right now." Worth it. By the way, in the middle of this, we learned that Willow is tired. He can't do. He's thinking about how he's going to get his own hands out of his bondage, but he can't do the other people because he's tired. And
right.
I just when are we going to get the sentence, "Willow was fresh as a daisy,
woke,
well rested,
ready to embrace the day,
top of his game. He had just brushed his teeth and he just felt good."
Yeah, we know he's tired. He wanders the earth and sleeps on the ground, and he fights and does magic. And I don't think he's slept the entire book. So we'll take it as a given. Right.
I picture he's a little bit like that's how Bruce Willis always comes off to me. He's always just been beaten up, and he's always just weary. And
right.
I guess I'll do another scene. Here we go. That's Willow. So yeah, he's tired, but he still manages to throw a spell or two.
Right. Well, this was we get some backstory as to how they captured Garen, and this put me on a high alert immediately. It says the only reason they'd made a move against Garen, it turned out, was that the Pathfinder was too weary from his own travails to realize his danger until the Bung starter clapped him upside his head. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, but I was curious. What does that mean? We eventually do get a description, but it reminded me there was a very poor man's Sierra adventure game called Hugo's House of Horrors that, when my dad was like, "We don't need a Nintendo, we've got this computer, it can play games, this one's good enough. Here, Hugo's House of Horrors." And it's like, you go around, you find stuff, typing in like pick up doormat, and very early on you just found a bung.
Oh yeah,
which I don't think I got too much further past that, but bungs were very commonly referenced on Beavis and Butthead in the bunghole way. So it always made me nervous as a 13-year-old.
I think there are bungholes in Shakespeare. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. I mean,
it's a mallet, right? Because
the bung starter is the mallet. The bung hole is the thing in which the sort of large cork goes in the side of a barrel.
Right. So yeah, that's what Garen the swordsman got taken out with.
Taking a prisoner alive by smashing him in the head with a bung. I mean, this is a very heavy wooden sledgehammer, I'm assuming.
Right. Well, maybe they knocked him unconscious, and then an hour later, when he continued to appear dead, that started to alarm them.
Right. So what happens over the course here, and if you have anything, stop me, but I'm just going to sum up. the main crude guy who's burping his rot gut all over and farting and scratching his genitals and everything, and yellow teeth with scum all over his, coated with scum on his tongue and everything.
Great guy though.
Great guy. I mean, this guy is a real jerk. He notices Corey is starting to look pretty good to him.
Uh-huh.
So
God, yeah.
So we clearly get that, and then Garen tries to object. Garen is bound up on the ground. His ribs are broken. Blood is bubbling from his mouth, and they occasionally turn and put a foot into his ribs, so his broken, shattered rib shards dig into his lungs, and more blood bubbles out of his mouth as he tries to stop the upcoming rape. And I just thought, Willow, here we are. We're not sliding down a hill anymore on a shield or anything, going whoa, like a Disney movie, Dean Jones and riding around in the Wonder Bug or something.
Yeah, the Shaggy Dog is not driving the car anymore.
Yeah, this is some dark stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it has a Daikini hitching up his pants and swaggering the length of the bar to the cheers and applauses of his fellows. And then he just starts groping her under the shirt and under the trousers. And it says he put his lips on hers. It was a long kiss. And when he was done, she looked the worst for it, which, grim stuff, but kind of a funny mental image. Just even kissing him, she looks the worst for it. This is not going to go well.
Well, once again, is he a Komodo dragon and his saliva has toxins in them?
It also talks about how they looked when they brought him in, and this is the 13-year-old girl that they are bringing into the thing. It says the captors slapped in place a leather mask that covered the whole of her head, leaving Alora able to breathe but not to speak or see. A broad belt went against her waist with buckles to secure her wrists behind her back, and once they'd reached the tavern, she was shackled to a ring bolt on the wall with a set of hobbles on the ankles as insurance.
Yeah, good
Willow.
Lord. Willow.
She's essentially the gimp that they keep in the Pulp Fiction basement.
Yeah, when you read that description, whatever is happening next is going to be the worst thing.
But so just some quick hits. It says much was made on their arrival of a flyer that a postwriter had brought during the night, so fresh from the printer that the ink had partially smudged in transit. So they're back, baby.
And I assume they're getting maybe 10% back on that because your ink was smudging on the way. I mean, we barely got them. I'm sorry, man. We should have blotted it more. We screwed up. It was a new guy, and I had to hire extra help.
But come on, man. That 10% is going to come out of my paycheck. You're getting the richest, a reward that's greater than all the gems in your ground. Still want it.
Right.
Bad service. You should have thought about that. Not my problem.
You're giving him chests of emeralds, and my fee is $180. Come on, man.
Not my problem. I mean, if your printing materials aren't up to snuff, I mean, that's the capitalism's going to snuff you out anyway. So you better get ahead of it. Learn to code, man.
One of my workers died on his horse riding to that far village where I've lost personnel and everything.
Gonna stir my rot gut beer with this gross flyer. I don't know what to tell you. It's gonna use it as a straw. But yeah, so that's Mallow and Simya, who are the gross characters. And just in case you were worried that we were going to get a Chekhov's Bung starter going, that is it rears its head again, because that is how the demon child, I believe, frees herself. She hops up with feline grace over the bar, I assume, scuttles crab-like along it, and then grabs the Bung starter, essentially a broad-headed mallet on a double-handed haft used to hammer spigots into beer barrels. So he explained that the second time. I don't know why.
Yeah, you can't just throw out a Bung starter, not mention it. Then the second time it comes up, then you get a description of what it is. It's pretty lame.
Clearly, him forgetting it was in there the first time. But I felt foolish reading this because I forgot that there was a hit song on the radio when I was in high school about Bung starters. And I had forgotten about it until like this sort of like triggered that memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I forget the band's name, but it was like all over this era where there was like they were playing sort of like electronic music on alternative radio. So I'll play a clip from it.
Wow, yeah, that is not a common word. I'm surprised they went with that.
Yeah, I mean it was it was massive. So it's strange that I forgot that, but The Prodigy was the name of the band. So.
Bung starter, yeah.
But yeah, they sort of go nuts once she starts hitting people with the bung starter. We got another imitation challenge coming for you, because Thorn sees one man clutch his groin and heard another utter a row low low ululation as a swarm attacked his backside.
I had the same thing for you, so I'm glad that this is up. Who wants to go first with the?
I'll give it a shot. So it's ralalow, but also a ululation. So I think it's a
okay. Yeah, that's a little higher than I thought, but
a swarm is attacking his backside.
That is true. Let me see if I can do it. This is the magic torture dust, right?
Yes, which I guess turns into some sort of like magic torture dust. Sure. I don't think we owe it any more dignity than that.
I was surprised that the dust went for his backside, but all right. But yes, a row ululation. Wow. Thank you.
Sounds like you're in a lot of pain there.
I ululate when I'm in pain. That's what happens.
And he whips out his magic acorn that he's about to turn everyone to stone with, but it turns out he doesn't need to do that because, as we were all predicting, the otter-man falls through the ceiling. The smooth...
Stimpy. No, Rin. Rin comes...
Yes.
He does
the
FBI ropes into the ceiling.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty cool. Oh, before that, though, Willow, when he was getting up, he stumble staggered. So that's just a thing now. That is fully a thing.
God damn it.
So Rin comes in, and it's basically like...
Batman crashing through a skylight.
Yes, and he just takes out everyone. And I just was like, wait, what was the physical description of these guys? I pictured like slim little otter-men.
Yes. They had like one like a belt of something that they that covered their junk or something, or maybe we imposed that on it. I don't remember. But he was they swim and they're equally well on the water. But last we saw, I guess he was taken off on the boat with Morag.
Yeah, and now he's rappelling in and kicking some ass.
Yeah. So keep in mind, just apropos of absolutely nothing. This reminded me of something, but see if it reminds you of anything. So keep in mind. Chris Claremont, he worked on a little series of comics called The X-Men.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think that has much bearing on this, but just keep in mind that as I read this for you. Rin had claws, but he preferred knives, 3 in each hand, held between clenched and folded fingers. And he used them with wild, madcap abandon. So just picture that. Picture 3 knives, sort of, where your knuckles are, 3 in each hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
It sounded familiar to me. I couldn't place it. I know that Claremont worked on the X-Men comics, so I don't know. That could be something that like, Cyclops or Iceman.
I don't know. Yeah,
Colossus.
I know what he was going for, but what I pictured was like a 4-foot, otter. And when he said knives, I'm like, well, little otter clutching at things like, I don't know. I can't more than like those little box cutters, the little flat ones that you use. So he wasn't getting me to where he wanted me to go. That's all I'm going to say.
But yeah, he used them in wild madcap abandon, but never to draw blood, Thorn saw from the start. Most of the wounds that followed came from one thug striking another by mistake. So he uses his sword sort of like the Ninja Turtle uses their sword. Leonardo never cuts a guy. He sort of just always hits the guy with the butt end of it because it's a children's cartoon, so he can't be cutting guys' heads off.
Yeah, I wondered why he did this. He's protecting the I don't know, the pacifist image of Rin, which I didn't even know anything about him. If he was cutting their guts open, I'd be like, okay, that seems like Rin, but
Sure,
no, he's,
exactly.
he's cutting their suspenders off, and they're going like they're crossing their legs and going ooh when another guy hits him in the head accidentally with a chair, and that's how he's taking them all out.
Yeah, he shows up and they go Three Stooges. It says by the time his foes reacted, the damage was done. Their laces slashed, pants around their ankles, cloaks pitched over their head. So yeah, it just becomes slapstick all of a sudden.
But he does something here when he looks over at Willow. And again, how does this work? Already taken care of, said Rin, with a smile to his voice to make up for the one the shape of his mouth couldn't seem to manage. So is it just because he has like the little otter mouth? And maybe they always look like they're kind of perpetually smiling, right?
Yeah, otters seem like one of the happier animals.
Yeah, so I don't know what his mouth is not able to make a smile. Wasn't that a Shatlart thing for what seemed like it kind of seemed like a smile or something? What was the term that he used?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. What was it?
Had to pass for a smile or
something that Gomez was always doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's just like he's like Rambo, where he's just like he's jaded by the horrors of war. Where he's like I want to smile, Thorn, but I've seen too many things, too many pants around ankles. Too many friends striking their friends, making a comical noise as they hit him with a mallet.
I mean, look at my hair. It's not even lacquered down anymore.
my satchel, it's barely covering my junk because of it was slightly disturbed when I sprayed that guy with the flower that's not a real flower, but just sprays out water when you lean in to smell it.
My hand buzzer, man. It broke a long time ago and I have to do it myself.
Yeah. Slapstick, it's not a word I've heard in a long time. But yeah, so he says that the horses are already taken care of. They're saddled, ready, and waiting. So as Marshmallow or whatever was hitching up his pants and groping the other guy, Thorn is just feeding the horses sugar cubes and being like, shh, shh, shh.
Right.
Wern is here. I've got this for you. So it's like, glad you didn't burst in through the skylight a minute or two earlier, man. I think maybe we could have put the bits in the horse's mouth after we had saved her, but all right, whatever.
Right. Meanwhile, Garen has fully bled out.
Yes, really.
He's got, what do they call it, the sucking chest wound, where that means that a lung is collapsed and really only a few minutes.
Oh, that rubber bung really caved his chest in, man. It's too bad it has such a hilarious name because it could do some damage.
And at some point, and I don't have it in context, but a looker is add that to the list.
Yes,
of spells.
Yeah. Morag put me ashore. This is him explaining, I guess, how he got there. Why? Well, she had a dream. Cast a looker. Then this is not part of the quote. It's essentially a parenthetical that the author says, a prescient trance to see what's what. I'll wager any odds. Their trackers are warded, capital W, so they can see past any glamours. So just full on gibberish at this point in time.
Yeah, that I wrote that down and just said, go to hell on that. Like,
so yeah, Morag cast a looker that pointed out to her that the trackers are warded, which means they can see past any glamours. So minor glamours, major glamours, they can see past any of them because of their trackers being warding.
Again, these different people seeing different things is a terrible idea in a book.
Yes.
I mean, maybe, we can understand a cloak where you're invisible or whatever. But these multiple levels, again, of spells and glamours and he can see and she can't, it's a big loser in my book.
Yeah, so the rough guys essentially said, hey, maybe the reward is not worth it because this chick is silver. And maybe that silver, if she is actually silver, is worth more than the money they're going to give us. So she looks like, an android, essentially. She looks like a liquid metal Terminator.
Yeah, she's liquid metal. Mm-hmm. And so they don't know what she's made of, but they think that someone might buy her as raw stock material. Like, what are they going to go over to the battery factory and she's cadmium? Yeah, I'll buy her.
Well, yeah, these are rough guys, so they've clearly have burst into an office building and ripped out the copper wiring and stuff and sold it to a guy for pennies on the dollar. So they know the guy who would buy this if there was such a guy.
Yeah, they've backed their trucks over those sprinkler valves and then just towed them away for sure. Yeah.
So the this is a very strange thing. I am positive you do not have an answer, but it says Rin is the otter-man. It says, even as Rin spoke, his words struck a discordant note in Thorn, and for the most obvious and glaring of reasons, because for being far more at home at sea than on land, this particular weir was leading them through the forest like a born woodsman. Still in all, he hadn't lied. He might be the sole exception that proved the rule, that rare sport who walked between both domains. Something else about him was familiar. The pattern of his speech, the way he carried himself. So what on earth are they implying?
I mean, I assume that he's something else. He's the deceiver or something.
Okay, yeah, that's the only thing I could imply, but like, if there's something about him that's familiar, it's because you were hanging out on a boat with him 3 days ago, right?
Yeah, it was a very clumsy way to say what I think we all are going to get to is he's not himself. Maybe he's the deceiver's cousin or something.
Right. But I also thought that when they introduced these otter people, they said like they're cool in the water and on land. They were, and we were like, why is this a thing? If he's amphibious, like why? That's not the way these works. Things need to be the water people and then the sand people type of thing.
Right. And did this weir, what are they? Weir and he's Rin, is that how it works?
Yeah, it's
the Wern people.
Yes.
He had to leave. He was raising some Dakini children, right? Didn't they often leave their children with the Wern? And so,
they babysat them and taught them to swim or something.
Right. So he had to, leave a babysitter at home to go rappel through this tavern skylight and save these people. So
what are the theories we have about how he was able to track them down? Was he at the printer and saw he was getting flyers printed up for like Weirfest 2020, and then he saw these guys getting printed, so he followed the printer who delivered the flyer to the hideous tavern?
I think, he was selling a boat motor because he'd gotten a new one, and he was just putting up a flyer for that, and like, oh, I know where those guys are.
That we're left to puzzle that, but I guess we're, Thorn's suspicions are raised, and they have to be raised for a reason, because this is not a very good book.
So he takes them, the fake Rin or the real Rin, who, TBD, takes them to a little hot spring.
Yeah.
And then there's sort of a weird conversation about, well, this is new, Thorn observed. Hot springs in general, or this one in particular? A sentence that has never been uttered by any human or mythical creature ever.
Yeah, who says that? Rare? Ren?
Ren asks, Thorn is curious of, like, this is new. A hot spring is new to him.
Yes.
And his response is, hot springs in general, or this one in particular? And then there's some theorizing about maybe the earth moved and this is a new one or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway, they use this hot spring to good advantage. They took advantage of the steaming mineral water to mix both soup and poultice. The latter was exclusively for Garen. The former he made sufficient for all. So they're drinking this stuff up while they're pouring it on Garen's chest. His wound is soaking in their soup, and they're like, this is delicious, and it's healing his wound over there, which actually happens. Then they say that.
Yeah, and like there's no demon child, accidentally taking a spoonful of poultice and him, smacking the spoon out of her hand, being like, "That is just for Garen." And if I showed up at one of these things with the girl who was 13, you had thought was dead for many hours. When it turned out she wasn't, she had turned silver, and this was all. Then she'd been, bound and gagged in a gimp mask, and the silverness had happened because of some ice fire. If I were playing, an adventure game like Hugo's House of Horrors, I would say take girl who got frozen and turned into silver and put her in the hot springs, because that's just, that's adventure game logic 101. You have something ice damaged, put it in the heat, not silver anymore. Bam.
Yep.
But
and pull a satisfying carrot out of your bag and crunch it away as she thaws out. Yep.
But yeah, and also the soup. Does he have just sort of like little packets of like Lipton instant broth?
Yeah, I assume. Well, he does one where he uses the ranch dressing. Surprisingly, does a good job. When you do it with steaming mineral water, it actually it tastes pretty good. It's a little more creamy.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just want the sodium from something when
it's MSG. Half of it's MSG, which is delicious.
Well, this is where we start to get into some serious sacred princess shaming. It delighted me to no end because it just is so over the top and unnecessary.
But before that, though, there's one paragraph about him. They're all enthusing at his mineral water soup, and even Corey, who she hasn't eaten anything ever, right?
Exactly. Come on, this is the best mineral water soup I've ever tasted. Well, I understand the baseline is non-existent, but I still take it as a compliment.
You are damning me with faint praise, but fair enough. And then he begins a reverie of saying, "I had a good teacher. His words were gentle. The emotions behind them far less so." Was his and it's the brownies taught him to cook.
Yeah.
And he starts crying over that. And in the description of how he taught them, they act like total dicks to him.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then he just talks about them with, and literally a tear rolls down his cheek, and Corey is wiping it away as he kind of comes out of his reverie of my dear abusive friends who taught me to make a mediocre soup from steaming water.
Right, it taught them he described them as like gourmands or something.
Mm-hmm.
A self-styled gourmet of the highest discernment, he never let an opportunity pass to revel in the abyssal depths of Thorne's ignorance of the culinary arts.
They proved to be foul taskmasters and worse teachers, but he persevered, watching and listening. And then from that, a tear falls out of his eye. They really were a-holes.
So were they cooking themselves? I mean, because they are, they're the size of this carrot stick he's eating. So if they were like, we're going to prepare you a real, souffle or something like this. He's like, it's going to take absolutely forever for them to get this done. They're going to be adding in chunks of garlic one by one because that's all they can carry.
I picture, course after course of that, cliched 80s giant plate with a, thimble-sized bit of food in the middle of it. And they just ate for hours, I guess. It's going to be another couple hours for the next course, but, relax, sit back.
Yeah. All they've done is treat him like garbage and make terrible quips. But I guess it's a Stockholm syndrome because he's very sad to see them go, and I'm sure will be relieved when they somehow turn up the next time they crash through a skylight or something.
Right. But now let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
The thing that's truly unbelievable. As I told you off air, if I had known that this were coming, I might have been a little more enthusiastic about each of the readings.
Right, yeah.
I'm not going to say it's worth it, but it's pretty spectacular.
No, it would be it'd be so. After reading these descriptions, it's funny to imagine these clowns clearly thought this might be something that would be potentially a movie, and we've heard whispers that there's going to be a sequel, a Willow series coming to Disney Plus or whatever. But when they were auditioning, the I don't know who, any of the girls from Little Women or something like that. They're like, we want to audition you for the Sacred Princess role. They'd be like, well, that's an honor. And then they read, these descriptions being like, well, absolutely not.
Right.
So this is the first one of them that we get here. He swung his cloak off his own shoulders and onto hers, raising its hood to cover her head. Is that better? I still want to know where I'm going. Her voice took on a pouty quality that was ferociously unattractive. Probably made her minders want to slap her silly.
Wow. Yes, I liked the ventriloquist dummy thing, putting it to the side, made her minders want to slap her silly. Come on, man. Admit right now you want to just start slapping.
Right. And, it's a cliche. It's what we've all seen it before, like the princess in Spaceballs. It's one of those just reluctantly taking on with these rogues, and they're sick of her highfalutin manners and stuff. But this just takes it to the next level of actual wishing her abuse and being sickened by her presence.
Yes, well, she doesn't come off any better in the next few paragraphs. I don't have the specifics. The overview to me was just so funny.
Yeah. So this says he realizes that she wants her privacy, And so I thought that might be like she needs a cry. She just is weirded out by the otter-man. She doesn't know who this guy with a poultice on his chest was. No, she just needed to take a dump. And Willow has used insight to determine this. It says there was a little niche below the pool, protected by a shelf of its own. He twisted the air slightly to waft a steady stream of warmth inside from the steam rising off the pool. Not an ideal toilet, but far better than they had any right to expect on the run.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep, we get the sacred princess, 13 years old, dropping the deuce right into the soup water.
Yeah. So yeah, that's also, I've done my share of backpacking. There's instructions about like try to bury it this far in a hole, cover it back up, pack out your toilet paper type of thing. Willow is just like, these waters have to be connected at some point in time. The first time this like rains and it overflows, you've contaminated your beautiful hot spring with sacred princess crap.
Garen's going to be like, I saw stink pickle floating in our soup water. What's happening there?
Right. He's like, this poultice actually greatly infected my wound. It's like, what did you put in here? Like, so yeah, bizarre.
Very bizarre. And in the middle of it, he like sees the dress being made. He has the vision, I forget, his insight, whatever. Yeah. He touches her gown and wave after wave of image of the people making it with love and craft and everything. And so take a squat right over there. And it's just very, very odd.
Right. This particular patch of lace, one woman worked for 8 months on this 4-inch square. So we'll rip 2 of them off, and then it'll be like 2-ply. But he actually even questions whether she knows what toilet paper is. It says Alora simply stood there, almost at attention, even the straight parts of her clutched as tightly as her fists, the need to speak as absolute as the determination not to. He wondered suddenly if she knew what to do. Mark of the Maker, he thought in horror. She can't led that sheltered of a life. So yeah, he's just assuming people have just been taking care of this for her all the way up to 13.
Oh, boy. And I hate to raise this issue. This isn't this kind of a show, as you know, but this is...
Despite my best efforts.
Yes, this has been a while. How is she impacted? Is this going well for her?
Oh, God. Yeah. Maybe he needs her own poultice or something to free it up.
I remember this is a very brief period when you have children, but all of you who have will look back on this with I don't know. It's certainly not fondness, but the age after
nodding acknowledgement.
Your children are toilet trained, as it were, but they are not able to do what Alora was unable to do, and so you cries from the bathroom, "Dad, wipe me."
Yes,
it's just the worst. Yeah. When that was over, I think I threw a party. I was like, man, that was a dark time in our life.
And from you clink your glass at that party to thank everyone for coming, to forgive you for having been sort of on edge and a wreck for the past 8 months or something, and that is of course interrupted by the sound of regression from the bathroom.
Right.
It happened again.
Oh no.
Yeah, so she evidently had a royal butt wiper and didn't know what to do in the situation. So you would think that the man who's able to rent mountains asunder with his magic might be able to fix that as well, but we're left to wonder.
It just kind of it drifts away from it, right? The indelicacy of whatever's happening.
Yeah, it's we're left to theorize on our own for that, as maybe our fanfic writers will do in the future.
Oh dear. So he hands her. He's got another outfit for her.
Well, yeah, because she says she's holding her clothes and saying, "I don't wear clothes twice." And Willow thinks, "Oh, well, you do now." But yeah, he had another outfit. We're spared the detailed description we were of the demon child, so we're not sure exactly what she's going to put on here. But she does say, "They're ugly." And to emphasize the point, she made a supremely ugly face. The joke was on her, of course, was that it wasn't a whole lot different from the expression she usually wore. I just wrote, holy shit, this is incredible. It is like a ventriloquist dummy, but it's... man, we need a picture.
Yep, that's my last note of this chapter, just triple underlined. Like,
yeah,
my goodness.
Yeah, like you said, that almost made it worth it when I read that.
So yeah, the princess who would just took a groaner is also, we have to put it right out there that she's uglier than a mud fence. Very unpleasant. She's got a belly hanging out.
Right, been called a pig. But yeah, the supremely ugly face, maybe if she was just straining to get that one out there, she sort of just like, her face froze that way, like your mom would always warn you.
Since I didn't wipe, my face is going to stay this way for a long time.
Yeah, her face remained a visual representation of the stink emanating from her backside from the decades of unwiped. I don't know.
There's going to be some sort of, he's going to invent a kind of magical fly that follows her around.
Well, she turns it on him. She snarls, "I want nothing," she snarled, "except to be rid of you forever." And I added in, "Here." And the chapter ends with Ren saying, saying they're coming from the south, sweeping the peninsula from shore to shore, not just with men and hounds. I could taste the forces bound to them. Seekers from among the Vale folk, we have to find another way. Run or hide or fight, it makes no difference. If we stay on land, we're done. So this is how the otter-man is trying to get them back to the water, which, I mean, sounds good to me. They seem suspicious, but he's luring them back to Morag's boat, I guess.
Yes.
That's where we leave off.
So that was him who saw the vision of all the riders?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I could find that out, but I believe that was Otter-man.
Okay. All right. Did he drop the knives? Where does he keep the knives?
He probably goes snicked, and they retract back into his hand from how he brandishes them. I don't know. The fact that he doesn't really use them means maybe he doesn't need them. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us through chapter 10 in this thing, and that put us out where we got 150 more. So
it's
pages.
259. Well, I'll look.
That put us out at 300 or so. So
yeah,
I think the total count is 454, a number that is seared into my. It looms in the distance like the Dark Tower to Roland. It is. I just see 454 forever on the horizon, never getting any smaller, never getting any closer.
It's Zeno's paradox. Yep, we only get halfway there. We keep getting halfway there.
God. But until then, we have some emails we can.
I'm sure they're all. I love this book. Can't wait for volume 2.
Wow, how desperately naive of you! You're optimistic as this new year dawns. No, well, I mean, I'll read the first one. You can judge for yourself. This is from John. The overblown prose in this book is exhausting. It's like listening to Yngve Malmsteen go off on a bagpipe solo.
I like that. That's good.
I now know how that guy that Dick Cheney shot in the face feels. John, sincerely yours, a beaten down Patreon supporter. So that's a two references to really put a cap on how he feels there.
Yngve Malmsteen is not invoked often, and I like every time that it is. I like it.
And then we got a couple more who are sort of giving us some more information about Chris Claremont, the Mont part of the Clue part of Clucas, the Mont part of Luke Mont. This is from Jill. I'm not sure if you can blame Lucas for all the creepy stuff in Shadow Moon. Chris Claremont has a reputation for putting his weird sexual fetishes into his work, and becomes even worse in prose. For example, one time he wrote a superhero novel featuring original characters. One of the male characters was transformed into a woman, raped multiple times, and then, what do you know, miscarried. Thanks a heap, Grandpa Chris.
Holy moly.
So, yeah, that's, eye-opening, wow. I guess.
Makes a Hot Spring number 2 look a little tame.
This one's from Alex. It says, one element from Claremont's X-Men run that has become somewhat awkward in retrospect is his handling of the character of Kitty Pryde. A 13-year-old girl, he nonetheless chose to depict her in a relationship with a much older man. Furthermore, her character was awkwardly sexualized, including being nearly sexually assaulted several times. You had to look at the awkward sections of Shadow Moon regarding Alora Dannon with this in mind, and it's hard not to see the comparison. So maybe she was like nearly sexually assaulted, but then the guy saw a man that had been turned into a woman and went off to, I don't know, dicey turf.
But then came a character in and snipped someone's suspenders, and down came his clown pants.
Yes, he came in through the ceiling and hit him with a bung in the crutch. One more from Lucas. He says, apologizes for missing the last reading deadline, but I noticed something in the reading that made me realize I need to inform/warn you of something. On page 248, Alora thinks the devil with protocol and procedure. This is important because for decades, Chris Claremont has replaced the word hell with devil to the point of parody. X-Men will shout, "What the devil?" when something weird happens, like they were Nigel Bruce. I'm surprised it took 250 pages for one to pop up, but I suspect it won't be the last, so keep your eyes peeled.
I need to ask after that, which I agree with totally. Your knowledge of Nigel Bruce, how does that work out for you?
I just sort of read it and didn't realize what it was saying and don't know who it means.
He was the old Dr. Watson, like from Basil Rathbone.
Okay,
so the bumbling sort of big walrusy mustache. What the devil?
Yeah, because what the devil say? That's a real term. So
yes.
He looks a little like Cliff Clavin, it seems.
Oh, did you look up Nigel Bruce?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is it young? He was in Suspicion, the Hitchcock movie. It's with Cary Grant. He played opposite Cary Grant.
Wow. All right. So good. Always good to discuss something good on this podcast to balance out the 2 hours of garbage. we start with Van Gogh and end up with Nigel Bruce and Hitchcock. This last email I found very intriguing. You let me what you think we should respond. From Gabriel. Dear Sir, good day. May we use this opportunity to propose to you a contract order that is available for supply now. An organization under the Ministry of Higher Education Cameroon, MindSup, has opened a contract order for the supply of 1 million pieces of T-shirts to them. These T-shirts would be used for direct and positive behavioral change among the youths of the country and region. It has been observed that youths wear T-shirts that have negative words and designs on them, which go on to affect their behaviors negatively. This project is aimed at directly tackling that anomaly. Below are the initial details of the order. Product, T-shirts. Quantity, 1 million pieces. Duration of contract, 8 months. Port of destination, Douala Seaport, Cameroon. Payment term, bank T/T upfront. Principal buyer, organization under MindSup. As a local agent which is deeply rooted here, we have the capacity and the capability to push for and secure this contract order for your company. We only require that you pay us a commission of 2% of the total invoice value of the order at the end when you must have received your order payment. If you can handle this order and are willing to pay our commission all the end, then please reply with your affirmation so we will send you the T-shirt details and specifications for further action. Best regards, Gabriel Olembe. And he gives his address in New Belle, Douala, Cameroon.
Wow.
So, it sounds like our ship has come in.
Sincerely, Big Dog T-shirt company. I can't make heads nor tails. What is the what's the deal?
They want us as a podcast to print up 1 million T-shirts with positive slogans and images on them because so many youths are wearing shirts with negative words and designs.
So, damn it, boys, should we get them printed now?
Yeah, I mean, inflatable cow, baby Yodas. Maybe we would have to say, "Don't say, damn it, boy." Say, "Okay, boy." We can get. We can't get any shirts with just Shadow Moon printed on them because that's extremely negative, and that would affect the youth behaviors negatively. But
can we get one for the girls? Can we get one that's like it says "I'm a princess" and then there's a picture of Alora on there, just this hideous pig woman with a giant belly,
scratching herself,
hanging out over a pool,
right, calling for toilet paper because there's none left in the bathroom. So I don't know. I think we should just send them the money now. And we'll just get to work printing the million T-shirts over the next 8 months.
I guess I should have told you. I also intercepted that email. I already sent it out. So from our...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they are on the way.
All right. Just let me know how much I owe you, and I will, tap into whatever we need to. Because, sounds like a good organization, very, very upfront, and for a good cause.
And not at all... confusing or just pretty straightforward. Look, guys, this is the deal. Obviously you're going to take this.
I'll write him back and let him know we can make 750,000 T-shirts and we'll see what he says.
So the guy next to him who's typing up the Nigerian prince ones, just going, what are you doing?
Yeah, you've gone off the rails,
Dave. Come on, man.
We've got a system here. It's either someone's vacationing in London and they've been robbed, or we caught you jacking it on your webcam and send. But until then, we can do dumb sentences of the week.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence ends with a period, or an exclamation, or a question mark. A sentence always ends with
I don't think
a
I've listened
period,
past this. I'm going to listen for 1 second.
or a question mark. So,
My dog is great.
is a sentence. The M is a capital. Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God!
Is a sentence. It ends with a period. That's right. And
Wow!
Do you like bugs?
is a
What?
sentence. The D is a capital. Yeah, it's big. But
Wow, it's better than I could have hoped for.
Do you like swarms of vermin going underfoot? Well, we'll listen to some more of that someday, but that was nice. Yeah.
That is like I think I said before, when you see just a different angle of a historic photo of Oswald being shot or something, and you're like, oh, didn't realize that guy was in the background. Fascinating. My dog is a bug. So these are the dumb sentences of the week. First one is coming to us from Janelle. She says, Angwin was built on hills, which in turn grew from land that gradually rose from the shore toward higher ground inland. So they're hills. They look like hills. They gradually rise, and there are other things around them that are not on the same level as them.
Ah, very nice.
Next one comes from Shane. He submitted the ra-la-la-la-la ululation as one man clutches his groin. The next one is from Andrew, who submitted the giant who had spread his dirty eider down across the world. He thought that the metaphor might make more sense if we knew what an eider down was. So it's the breast down of a female duck. So take that for what you will, Andrew. Next one is from Jim, a Patreon supporter. He strode back to the common room, his purposeful traverse shaken at the start by a startled squeak and a frantic set of staccato jiggle hops as he struggled to avoid stepping on any more critters underfoot.
Staccato jiggle hops. Also a Lucas name. So there you go.
The Jillicle hops were they're in the beer movie of cats. That is what they brew with. He thought strode, shaken, startled squeak instead of staccato, struggled stepping. Why has Pappy Pariah started writing this?
Oh God.
This one is from Heather. They took her from the escarpment in a pole harness, essentially a lariat loop at the end of a 10-foot quarterstaff intended to both secure and restrain an animal. She said her first thought, was it a buck and a quarter 10-foot quarterstaff? I don't know what that means. But it's good. So he describes what a pole harness is as soon as you read it, because you might not know. I would not have, but you didn't know what he didn't provide that for the bung hammer.
Hey, everyone's got a bung hammer in the corner. Not many people are, snaring animals. It's a well-known thing.
This is from Patrick. It was as if the whole city understood it was doomed and people were merely going through the motions, a purely back-brain response, no different than the primal, mindless urge for survival felt by the riders' horses. And he points out, as you did, those two things are not similar. They're very different, actually.
Yes.
This was Khan submitted the critique of Franjean's culinary critiquing. He just pointed out that despite his culinary snobbery, he lives in the woods and wears a mouse pelt. So settle the hell down with your, dissing my coq à vin or whatever.
Right.
And this is from Marie. She says, there was no discrimination between earth and air. They blended seamlessly in the distance as though the world had been resolved down to a globe of fluff.
Oof.
Yeah.
I noted that one, but I probably just gave it a sniff of disgust and moved on.
Well, I only had one because but it was the staccato jiggle hops. Avoid stepping on the critters underfoot. That one just stood out to me as being truly wretched.
Yeah. I have one that, not a lot of fireworks, but this struck me as unnecessarily deadpan. This is when the city's destroyed or whatever. Alive. It was a pointed command, not what was expected from someone whose city had just been consumed by magical flames. So, yeah, the book becoming kind of self-aware and ribbing itself. Very odd time for that.
That is the last thing we need. We do not need, Star Wars caliber, Marvel movie caliber humor edging its way into this thing.
Yeah.
I guess we've already kind of got it with the look who's talking and takes one to know one type of things.
It's if the Rin or the Win or whatever becomes making jokes about his own slapstick, that's when we decide just not to finish the book.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of that, I think that next week or next whatever, maybe not next week, will take us to the end of chapter 12. End of chapter 12. And then I think we've got 2 more sessions after that. So, it appears the Eagles might be coming back. But yeah, we've got 357 in the trade paperback or the mass market paperback. I don't know. I think we can do it. I think we're going to do this and emerge through it stronger.
I think, when we get to the end and we're all tattered and bloody and our skin is stretched and our face is in a grimace, we're going to feel better about ourselves. It's going to be a cleansing spell around us. So, thanks to everyone for sticking with it. We
appreciate it. And thanks for the support on Patreon. We're ticking up near 500 supporters, so join in there. I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to be for what to do with 500, but I have a fun idea for Patreon that I'm going to run by you. We'll see. Maybe we can stick that as a thing we'll trigger when we get to a certain number of people.
Well, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued. Does it have anything to do with inflatables?
All right, you called me on it. I bought one. I need some cash to help pay it off because of this T-shirt scam. I'm between that and the inflatables. I'm ruined.
All right, this is 372 pages. We'll never get back. So long, everyone.
Bye bye. I'm going to take a bathroom break before that. I've got to find a hot spring to.